Nicholas said in passing, which is inevitability. And that's another thing that I think what technology wants, is that there is actually inevitabilities in technology. There are certain larger scale forms of technology that are inevitable. And we actually have to embrace that. In other words, it's coming. So rather than say, well, that sort of diminishes our freedom to choose and stuff, we have to actually embrace it and say, no, this is a chance for us to prepare for it. This is a chance for us to educate and create the literacies that were necessary to make the most of these inevitable technologies. Cloning, it's coming, it's inevitable. Genetically modified crops and genetically modified humans, they're inevitable. We have to actually prepare for these things by getting the literacies, by sorting things out, rather than trying to say, well, we can't have them, because they're going to come.
Cloning. Talk to us about cloning. How do you see that playing out?
It's inevitable. We have clones already. We have human clones walking around among us right now where we're not disturbed. They're called twins. If twins had been invented, if we had invented twins, they would have been outlawed. There's no problem.
I think one of the things that gives me hope is that, but you know, if I look at the green area, which is where I work, the things we're doing in solar and wind and energy storage and these things which were to solve problems here are also small is beautiful, appropriate scale that will go, so they'll go worldwide. They'll become leapfrogging technologies, and they'll probably be adopted more quickly elsewhere than here. We need them here. But we need them even more elsewhere. In some sense, Germany's solar subsidy program, which is a good thing in driving solar forward, is also a bad thing, because Germany is the country in the world that needs those solar panels the least. They would have done much more social good in Africa and other places. But I'm not completely complaining, because I'm glad they drove the solar industry forward. But it's really a misallocation of resources, and that won't continue. These technologies will go everywhere quickly, like cell phones did in Bangladesh.
All over the world. I mean, it's the penetration of cell phones is high, partly because the installed base previous was so low, right, and the legacy systems didn't exist. And the same's going to happen with education. That a place like Afghanistan and Gaza, where I find it's extraordinary what they're doing in Gaza, is because there is so little, and they're willing to take the risk. You go into a place that has a lot more, and you're moving deck chairs. People say, why aren't you in the United States, Nicholas? Well, you know why I'm not in the United States? There are 19,000 school districts run on real estate taxes. Now tell me, isn't that a stupid system? 19,000 school districts run on real estate taxes? Who do I talk to?
In other words, as opposed to one
well, it's opposed to dealing with one person who can at least get this into the curriculum and think about it and take. So when President Kagame says Rwanda will have 1 laptop per child in 18 months, just like President Vasquez said it in Uruguay, every single child has one. Every child. And so to do that in the United States is partly you're moving deck chairs, because it's pretty good, the education system. And they can go to libraries and so on. They can't in Afghanistan. They can't in Gaza.
I want to open it up to questions for a few minutes, but Bill, I just want to get one comment from you, because you said we're going to have to see behavioral changes.
Right.
What do you mean by that? What kind of behavioral changes?
Well, I mean, we're doing a lot of things which are unsustainable and often just in retrospect will seem stupid. And people do them because it's cultural, they just don't know. And so, like wasteful irrigation practices, say, where instead of drip irrigating, you're flood irrigating, or things like this, where you have to cause a behavioral change, teach farmers to sustainably grow crops, bring them new crops that maybe augment their culture. Those kind of changes take social change as well as bringing the technology. The new communication tools really enable such change.
Yes, sir.
So we've heard a lot about some of the exponential improvements in technology. Kevin Kelly talking about the data doubling, and we were reminded this morning from Jeff that all exponential trends come to a stop. Usually they run into some bottlenecks or barriers. It's probably not a technological barrier, it's a cultural and organization, as Bill was just saying. Last week I was having dinner with Eric Brill at eBay, and he was talking about a lot of innovations that they were holding back on in terms of technological innovations in that ecosystem because their user base just couldn't keep up. And they found that when they introduced new features and new capabilities, that while they could work fine, there was a resistance from the user base that they just couldn't keep up with that pace of change. To what extent is that happening, not just in a lot of companies that I'm talking to, but just societally, and what are we speak a little bit about those kinds of bottlenecks and what we can do to manage them and overcome them, because I don't think they are technological.
Well, I think if you follow, just to answer the first question about this curve going up and having to collapse, but as Jeffrey West was explaining, that what happens is it usually is migrated to another curve, and so you have this sort of cascade of curves which form a super curve, which keep going up. The question is can the whole large civilization, the global civilization, can it continue to go and get better? And that's simply undecided. We don't know. But I think it's a good. I think people behave better if we assume that we can keep making the world better than to believe that it's all going to collapse. I think it's just better behavior all around. But specifically about the question that people are finding that, well, this is enough change, I don't want any more, hold it, slow it down. I think there are different ways to have change. I mean, I think there are lots of change can happen where we're not even aware of it. It's infrastructural change, things that are even not appearing to us that can be beneficial. And I think that what we want with technology is actually to increase the options for everybody, but we personally may keep selecting out fewer and fewer to use. I myself want to minimize the amount of technology in my life, but I want to have a larger pool of it to select from. So while I'm minimizing the amount in my life, I want to maximize the choices for others, because that's what happened to me. The choices I am choosing from have been made by other people. So we have this sort of weird thing where personally we want to decrease the amount of technology that we have to deal with, but at the same time we want to increase the options and choices that others have to select from. So I think it actually goes both ways.
I think we have an abundance of information and connectivity and disk storage and entertainment options, but how do we minimize the amount of that we have and
personally
bring it into balance with the other things
Sure.
we want in our life? How do we waste bandwidth to get something else? Take something
Right.
that's overly abundant and use it to give ourselves something which is otherwise scarce. So not become addicted just to the flow.
Okay.
So that's a challenge that we have.
We're going to wrap it up after a couple more questions right here, and then we'll go there. Go ahead, sir.
The Amory Lovin's Rocky Mountain Institute. The best way I know to create abundance by design rather than scarcity through inattention is to work with and model on nature, which has had 3.8 billion years of experience in getting multiple benefits from single expenditures. This is what's so extraordinary about Willie's work in particular. Any of you who haven't seen his TED Talk, Willie Smits Restores a Rainforest, I would strongly urge you to do so. Because 2 years ago, I was walking around a rainforest that his team had created from nothing in 6 or 7 years. Then you look at the kinds of benefits this gives. It's not just the rainforest. The way he does it also creates a strong local economy that makes the local people very quickly so much better off that they will now protect the rainforest. You get the order of magnitude reductions in diabetes, heart disease, stroke from the palm sugar. You get the world's strongest fiber. There's over 50 values from this one tree, and that's one of 1,300 odd species of trees he's working with. The whole system is so intricately interknit to produce numerous benefits in the ecological, social, economic, and many other spheres. I think it's the best model in the world for what we all need to be doing in our respective spheres of endeavor.
Can I just say one thing? I think it's hard for us to appreciate how much we always talk about the ecosystem services and how much they're worth. But if you can see an example where it was gone and brought back and see what you then have, so you started from nothing, that gives you, I think, a better appreciation for how much the ecosystem can do.
That's a great point, Bill. Yeah.
And about the introduction of new technologies. If you want to bring in just the energy efficient stove in that society, it's very hard to change the culture. You have to work very hard. But if you come with a package which is integrated and where you can show how things are interconnected, then the acceptability of that new technology becomes a lot better. So in addition also to the...
Final question right there.
I think it's clear how society will be better off because one laptop per child and Masarang are here. How will society be better off because Kleiner Perkins is here?
No. Well, we hope to bring you. We hope to bring you great new digital life science and green technologies that help everybody by sponsoring entrepreneurs and helping them build great companies, because we have to translate the scientific ideas and technical ideas into action. And the free market and economic system we have is the way that we do that. We can't do everything with charities and nonprofits. So we hope to build some of those great companies.
Gentlemen, thank you, and thank you for a stimulating conversation. Thanks, everyone. David.